That question was so obvious. I was like, wait a minute, who played Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hey, that's me.
Hey, that's him. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Yay!
Hey.
Victory!
Today on our SinCast, Barrett came to us and he was like, you know what? You know what's amazing? Mission Impossible is 25 years old.
That's right.
This month. It came out on Memorial Day, 1996. I remember so much about this summer of 96, man. Mission Impossible. Yeah, man. It was just a ton of stuff coming out. Space Jam came out in 1996.
Wow. We really could have done a segment on Space Jam.
We could have. But Mission Impossible came out in 1996. It has spawned 5 other sequels after that, and we're going to see a Mission Impossible 7 at some point. So yeah, what do we want to say about these movies? I guess I could go ahead and start. Definitely working at a movie theater during this time when Mission Impossible came out. And I remember you're still in that mode of like, they're making a movie out of a TV show that came out like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Even then you're just kind of like, okay, we'll see. Tom Cruise is usually pretty good. So we'll see what happens. And I remember watching, I think this was the summer where I watched almost everything twice because I would come in on the day that a movie would come in, which was, in this time, Paramount stuff used to come in on the Wednesday before it came out. So I would come in on Wednesday and would build that print and watch it during the afternoon. And then it would just be ready. And then, Thursday night when people wanted to watch it again or whatever, watch it on the normal time or whatever, just watch it again. That's especially if it was good.
Why did Paramount stuff? Do you know why? Is there a reason that they came in early?
There were 2 different outfits that delivered films, Technicolor and their orange cans, and Technicolor did stuff like Disney, Sony. I don't know if Sony actually went to the other cans at some point, but no, Disney, I think maybe Universal had the orange Technicolor cans. And then a whole bunch of groups of studios, Warner Brothers and whatever, used a completely different service to deliver their cans. And so Paramount was one, like, if you knew you were getting one of those Friday, you knew those cans were coming in on Wednesday. So that was always awesome. Actually, it may have been one of those things where it came in on Wednesday night. We weren't open during the afternoon.
Oh, really?
It came in on Wednesday night, and then I could come in on Thursday afternoon and build it with no customers, no worrying about starting shows or anything like that. Watch it, and then that night watch it again.
Ah.
But that first Mission Impossible, when I first watched it, I was like, oh my God. Even at 19, I was sitting there going, oh my God, Brian De Palma made a studio movie where he's able to keep his own style all the way through it. It makes a great use of its widescreen, which very few movies actually do. A lot of times, directors will make a movie in scope 2, 3, 5, 1, and they'll not use it completely. It's like, I just wanted to have a big widescreen is pretty much, it seems like. But De Palma, if you're looking in this movie, if you're looking to the side, there's always something going on in there. There's information that goes on in the first Mission Impossible that it rewards the viewer for paying attention throughout. And this is a big studio action movie. Most movies don't do that.
Yeah.
So I was a huge fan of the first Mission Impossible when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it.
No kidding, man. The action sequences, which later on the franchise will be known for, were there, obviously. I mean, for the train scene at the end, like Tom Cruise, this is the beginning of him doing all his stunts.
Mm-hmm.
He had that wind machine flown in and all that. But also, this to me is the most spy forward movie in the entire franchise.
Yes.
Like there's an actual mystery going on all the way up until the end, where there's subterfuge going on that you won't expect. Like when not John Voight rips his mask off, you're like, I was genuinely shocked. Like maybe there was a little bit in my brain that was like, oh, I bet that's Ethan. But it's a big reveal, and I just love it, man. That's why it's so rewatchable to me, almost as much as any of the latter ones. You can go back and be rewarded for watching it for the spy stuff and the plot, or the action sequences, which still hold up.
Mm-hmm.
The tank scene with Kittredge and Ethan still holds up as one of the coolest stunts I've seen.
Yeah,
and Cruise did that one too.
When he walks around the room detailing the second team that had been at the first event.
Yes.
It's the way that De Palma, this is why he's probably one of my two favorite directors, because the way he shoots film is just different. He thinks deeply about what's going on, how things are framed. Like Chris said, things going on in the background that seem innocuous, but later will become important. It's got style, like the McQuarrie ones that we'll get to talking about later. Well, I wish we could talk to the movies. That would be awesome. Are incredible, but they're more straight action. Lost some of that. I don't even want to say noir, but that kind of mysterious style.
Spy stuff. Yeah.
And I will never forget Sting insulting the U2 version of the theme song because they changed it to 4/4. And he said any idiot can play in 4/4. Because the U2 version is like, and I love it. It's a jam, but Sting's kind of right. It's more impressive to play the original theme song.
Yeah, it's a jazz guy. Lalo Schifrin did the da, 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 which I think is 6/4, which is very jazzy time signature. And you're right. I love that one too. And we'll talk about the Limp Bizkit version in a second. But I love the original too. So yeah, I understand that. I understand.
I think it's 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 2. It's 5 something.
4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Anyway, we'll figure.
No!
This has been Music Theory with Jeremy and Barrett's chests and palms.
Did everybody else fall in love with Emmanuel Bayard too?
Of course.
Oh my God, she was so gorgeous.
I'd never seen a woman like that in my life. When Emmanuel Bayard was. When she first came onto the scene, oh my God! And at the very beginning, you find out she's married to John Voight, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
But like there was a scene that I used to always walk in on because I just love how it's set up and everything is. Kittredge comes down in the helicopter and he's like, how long to the London terminus? And this is before the big train sequence and everything. And they tell him what blah, 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 blah. All right, we'll meet each other there and blah, blah, blah. And then like, dun, 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 dun. And it's like this helicopter shot zooming in on the train as it goes on the tracks and everything. And it goes all the way to this room where someone's preparing the briefcase or whatever it is. Oh my God, I love that shit so much.
I also read the other day an interview with Tom Cruise talking about that shot of him coming down to the floor in the vault and hanging right above the floor, and he kept smacking his head on the ground.
Oh no!
They were doing take after take, and they were apparently De Palma was ready to give up, and Cruise basically begged him to give him one last shot, and he nailed it. So
he did. He also had it was like money, like coins in his shoe to keep him balanced because apparently he was tipping forward all the time.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So he had to do that, and that's of all the things in this movie that's the iconic shot, right? Is the outstretched arms and the
probably.
all white thing.
Mhm.
And I had never seen anything like that. And then when you do, it was many years later that I figured out that he did, I think, virtually all the stunts in that movie. I was like, holy shit, seriously?
And even better is when Krieger slightly drops him, and he's got that look on his face where he's like trying not to hit the floor, not trying to say anything, is beautiful as well. Yeah, that scene's great, especially the way they set it up, because Cruz is talking to Ving Rhames, Emmanuel Bayard's in there, Jean Reno plays Krieger is in there, and they're all talking about how they're going to infiltrate the CIA, and Cruz goes through that whole thing of like, well, we're going to have to get in there somehow. And then all these systems are state of the art. You can't make noise. You can't touch the floor. You can't do this and that. And Ving Rhames is like, even with top of the line crypto, we ain't going to be able to get in this place. And he goes, don't worry, Luther. It's a way worse than you imagine.
That's crazy. He's great. Ving Rhames, who we'll talk about many times, I'm sure. But I mean, this was only a couple years after Pulp Fiction, and you're used to seeing him as this big tough guy, and he is tough, but he's also like the nerd, and he's also, you know, the lovable dude that works with Ethan.
It is funny listening to him talk about what state of the art computer stuff is during that scene. I'm talking about the blah 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 risk chips and all this whatever he's talking about in there, which I'm sure at this point in time the technology he's talking about in there is like ancient, but it sounds amazing in 1996.
That's right. Yeah, Jean Reno and I'll tell you the moment that shocked me is when this is a weird thing. But like in 1996, Emilio Estevez was enough of a star that you didn't expect him to die within the first like 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh, man, I actually felt like it was amazing I was seeing Emilio Estevez in a movie in 1996.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember, and I believe Estevez, I don't know if he was calling in a favor with his old buddy Cruz on this, but I think there was a connection there as to how he got in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember seeing, I mean, and of course, you know, we're all way younger at this point, when, Mission Impossible comes out. It felt like it had been forever since I had seen Emilio Estevez in a movie by the time but Men at Work, which was the last thing that I had remembered seeing him in, was like 5 years previous or something like that. But I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember him. I just don't remember him in anything big at that point.
We weren't. 96. Yeah, we weren't old enough to see Judgment Night, but that was 93.
Oh, I saw Judgment Night.
Oh yeah, I wasn't old enough.
I was in the theater that ran that. So yeah, Judgment Night, but it may have been since Judgment Night actually, since I had seen him. You pop off a whole bunch of other movies.
No. There was only two. There was only two between that and Mission Impossible. D2. The Mighty Ducks, which I didn't see. I saw the first one. And then he was in the Jerky Boys, the movie, which I had no fucking interest in whatsoever. I understand. But in my head, I think I had that Men at Work, Young Guns type of thing to where he seemed like he was a big enough star to last more than 5 minutes and get impaled in the eye.
Yeah. I remember this ending, too, confusing a lot of people because of the way it was shot. Well, not the ending, but the reveals that were going on. When John Voight is going through all the things that happened, that Ethan's trying to come up with the answers to, you know, Voight is basically saying Kittredge is behind this, and this is what he did. And meanwhile, Ethan is thinking of the thing that actually happened, while John Voight is giving him a line of bullshit. So a lot of people were like, wait a minute, what, he's saying this, but they're showing that and everything. And if you just sit there and actually piece it together and realize that Ethan's been on to John Voight this whole time, you realize that he's thinking about how John Voight did all this. Jim Phelps, don't mean to impugn John Voight.
Oh, please impugn him.
Yes. But yeah, I can get really in depth on that one. I don't know how in depth I can get on Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, I got that one covered, baby.
Which came out in 2000, I believe.
It is the most 2000 movie ever to exist.
It is.
Oh my God.
John
Last
Woo
night,
takes over.
I read the Wikipedia plot description and it gave me a headache. I'm not even joking. It's just reading the plot of this movie makes me want to run away and hide. I think I only saw it twice, when it came out and then when we sent it. And
Same here.
think you might have to pay me to watch it again. It's really a bad time.
It's awful. It's awful. It was playing on HBO, I think, fairly recently, and I watched it just out of morbid curiosity once, and then my son wanted to see it, so I watched it again. And it's just so... Look, I like John Woo. I don't love John Woo, but I like John Woo, and I understand what he's going for. Very pulpy, very, over the top and stuff like that. I don't think doves being released in the background needs to be in a Mission fucking Impossible movie. And I definitely don't buy Doug Ray Scott as like the most dangerous person in the fucking world.
At that time, though, he was what Jai Courtney was at the beginning of Jai Courtney. All the studios thought he was going to be. He almost was fucking Wolverine, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he was more known than Fucko at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hanky. Fuck. Who is it?
Hank Azaria?
Jeremy. Who played Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
That question was so obvious. I was like, wait a minute, who played Wolverine?
Hugh Jackman was basically unknown when he got that role, and DeGray Scott was much more known. So it's not surprising to me that he was cast in the role, but I think ultimately he lacked the charisma to become that next level star, and it showed pretty heavily in this movie. You know who else lacked charisma in this movie for me, and it pains me to say it because I think she's been a lot better since, is Tandy Newton.
Yeah. She got. I think she. You know the backstory on that? Like, apparently she was very uncomfortable working with Tom Cruise on this.
I know that. Yeah, that whole tub scene. They conceived of it differently, and she was uncomfortable, and I get that, and that's not really what I meant. But now I feel bad, so I'm gonna walk back.
No, I don't think it's. I don't know if it's her. I think it may be the direction. Like, I don't think John Woo is known for really giving a lot of agency to his female characters. I'm sure he's a perfectly fine person. It's just whatever comes out on the screen.
He had Travolta and Nick Cage that he'd worked with recently who don't need to be told to act.
Right.
And so maybe that's not his thing, is telling people to emote. Maybe he likes those cold, hard stares.
Yeah, the action in this, I can't abide by all the slow motion. And what really drives me crazy, even more than choppy edits, is showing the same shot from a different angle several times in a row. So when they're doing the fucking motorcycle joust and like Tom Cruise swings around and brings the gun up, it shows him bringing the gun up, and then another shot of him bringing the gun up, and then another shot from down here of him bringing the gun up. I'm like, God damn it, dude. We get it. Like, that was a cool stuff. Yeah, we brought the gun up.
There are a couple of things I want to bring up. First off, she's now formerly Tandy Newton. She's using her real name now that I don't think I've ever heard pronounced.
I haven't either. I just know that she's spelling it with a W.
It's like Tandiwe or something like that.
Right.
Like it's I think it's something close to what we're seeing
Apologies.
now. No. No, I don't think everybody knows this.
Okay.
This is something that was just, I mean, it was kind of very like, subtly reported that that's her real name that she's using right now.
I see.
But there was some sort of weird thing that happened where somebody actually took that name or whatever, and she couldn't use it, and that person didn't have any real rights to it, and she's like, I'm taking this fucking name back. So
awesome.
I don't know what the hell happened there, but I'm glad that she got her real name back. But yeah, John Woo, I think, is one of those classic cases of a director who had a great career in his homeland and then came over to America and realized he couldn't do the same exact things that he could do over there. And a lot of these American films have some watered down issues. I don't know how. I mean, if they let Brian De Palma do everything he wanted to do on the first movie, which it looked like they did, the second one's very well could be all Woo. Could be all Woo.
Woo.
But the only other things I remember about this movie, it's so weird, right? Watching a movie twice and you even send it, and I don't even remember very many things about this. Are ancillary, like the Ben Stiller thing, that where he's Tom Cruise's stunt double, and he's like they're talking about that motorcycle jousting scene. And he's like, I think you should have a point where you're up in midair and you turn to the camera and you go, looks like things just got a lot more impossible. And there's a lot of that. Ben Stiller thing is hilarious. The other thing, I was dying laughing. I watched this movie with Russell, and Jeremy knows Russell. We worked with him at Hollywood 27. When the Limp Bizkit song comes on at the end of the credits, which I believe is Mission Impossible 2000.
Well, it's called Take a Look Around. But
Take a Look Around.
Yeah.
Take a look around, and then it's like, now I know why you want to hate me. Now I know why you want to hate me. Russell got all the way down at the front of the theater, and just he put his hands on his knees and just started moving his head back and forth, just head bopping at the song. And I was just like doubled over laughing.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I tell you what, there are two amazing things. Well, there's one amazing thing in this movie, and that's the opening. The opening where he's doing the free solo climb, at least on the screen. I think he had a harness, but he was on that rock out in Utah.
And then Spock flies up in those jet boots and says, "Captain, we've got to go make the worst movie ever made."
Yep.
That was Star Trek 5.
Classic.
But dude, that opening sequence is pretty fucking amazing, man. The fact that what's cool about it is that he almost slips and falls, and he just holds on with one hand, and then he does that crazy like behind the back thing, and then when he does get a grip back, he does this little smile where he's like, "All right, I knew what the dangers were. I'm good," and it's a nice reintroduction to that character. And the other thing, a tiny thing that I love, is Anthony Hopkins is in this movie for like maybe 15 seconds. And he convinces Ethan Hunt to go get this rogue agent played by Tony Newton. And he's like, "I can't get her back." And he's like, "Will it be difficult?" And he's like, "Yeah, very." And he's like, "Well, it's not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible."
Yes.
Difficult should be a walk in the park for you.
Yep. Alex Honnold of Free Solo fame was talking about how he climbed that exact rock. And,
really?
Yeah, and he said he's like, I was pretty sure I was where they were when they filmed this, because I could see the little footholds and stuff still in the mountain and everything.
Cool.
And he deconstructed that mountain climbing sequence from MIA2 if you want to take a look at it.
Really?
I think he's got
awesome.
2 or 3 of those where he finds all the different mountain climbing things, and it's fun listening to him talk about those things. He's like, yeah, this is pretty legit. It's kind of sick, actually. Blah blah blah. He's like, but some things obviously it's like, no, that's not a thing. You can't do that. But he's really fun to listen to on this. So then it took another 6 years. Mission Impossible 3 comes out with J.J. Abrams at the helm. And this was rightfully called the Alias version of Mission Impossible. He had already, J.J. Abrams had already come off of Alias, and it has all the hallmarks of a J.J. Abrams spy thing, especially Alias, because this time we see Ethan actually like trying to settle down, and we see his family on the outside of this, or who could be his family. Michelle Monaghan plays his fiance or his wife. I can't remember.
She becomes his wife. He hastily marries her right before he goes out to track down David.
As you do.
And she has her troubled brother played by Aaron Paul, who nobody knew at the time. But this is the one. This is where Philip Seymour Hoffman shines. This is the villain. This is the biggest. This is the best villain, maybe, possibly. I'm not sure.
Absolutely, it is. You've got Dougray Scott. You've got the old guy from Ghost Protocol, and then you've got Solomon Lane.
The old guy from Ghost Protocol
that somehow holds his own against Ethan Hunt in a fist fight. Yeah. No, Owen Davian for sure is by far the best villain.
Right. You can't get. I mean, you can't get much better acting pedigree on this to get into a silly third movie of a franchise than Philip Seymour Hoffman. Of course, later on he was doing Hunger Games too. So I mean, I guess he wasn't entirely. Above it or anything, but man, he's so good in this movie. Other than his performance, though, I'm not sure how much I remember about this movie either.
Oh, I love this
movie. Well,
it's
so much. Where we finally get Simon Pegg joining the group, and there's like the bad guy puts like a thing in people's brain that goes splammo after a certain amount of time. And that's what kills Felicity.
Felicity
early on, and she's like his protege. Is there a female version of the protege? She's his protege, with 2 E's. But she dies, and he's wrecked with guilt about it, and it makes him angrier at Philip Seymour Hoffman. And then Michelle Monaghan gets kidnapped, and goes Mary Jane Watson on the third act. There's some good action. It is overpraised because of how bad 2 is. It is given credit for saving the franchise because of how bad 2 is. 2 made almost $600 million. And it is a bigger budgeted episode of Alias. It would make it, listen, Barrett is shaking his head because he's seen it recently. I've seen it 4 or 5 times. I'm not talking out of my ass here. I also saw every episode of Alias, and I don't think you did.
No, you're right.
I'm not insulting the movie by calling it a bigger budgeted episode of Alias. Alias was quite a kick-ass television show. It's just that tonally, it stands out to me from the rest of them. Well, 2 stands out pretty bad too. But I'm never worried about anybody in these movies. The stakes are never really all that serious, except for Felicity, of course. This movie's Emilio Estevez.
Well, I mean, they do show the death of his wife, though, and you know how dangerous Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is. And you're like, holy shit, shit could go wrong because there was no guarantee there was going to be a fourth one.
I would probably put the first movie and the 3 most recent movies above this, is all I'm saying.
I would too. I love it, but you're right.
Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, then we don't disagree so much.
No, I don't think... For so long, it seemed like it was underpraised because it was such a different aspect of Ethan Hunt. He's got that party scene where you meet Aaron Paul and everybody at the beginning where he's explaining, I do traffic analysis because traffic has memory. No, and he's doing all this crazy shit, and he's going up and talking to Michelle Monaghan, and he trains this new class of like the Kerry Russells and everything. And you could see I think the story develops really, really well. And it's certainly the antithesis of 2. And it's really so different from 1 because 1 is all about the job, right? Like he's trying to put this together. It's a snapshot of this one period of time in Ethan Hunt's career. 3 is more of like, here's what's happened before. Here's what will happen in the future. So yeah, I do. I actually probably rank it the same way you do, but I do love it, and definitely the best villain. And by the way, Luther, Ving Rhames' character, was barely featured, I think, at the very, very, very end of 2.
Right.
And he comes back full time in 3, and I think he's a good stabilizing presence in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the addition of Simon Pegg was fucking brilliant, I think.
We also
there's no
got
question.
we also got to remember what's going on with Tom Cruise when this movie comes out, because I do believe this is around the Oprah couch incident and the Matt Lauer interview where he calls Matt Lauer glib for talking about mental health issues that require drugs and things like that. It's a miracle that there's 3 more Mission Impossible movies that come out. When you talk about Tom Cruise and what his name meant in 2006, because everybody was like, "There's this crazy Scientology guy," and so I think it hurt the box office for part 3 for sure, especially since it had been 6 years since a movie that nobody really liked came out. And you're feeding off of not only the bad taste in your mouth for Mission Impossible 2, but you're also, you're running into this. Tom Cruise might be a little bit too weird to go see movies now, and so Mission Impossible 3, I can't remember what it did box office wise, but it was not great.
Looks like about 400 worldwide. I'm not sure what domestic it was.
It's amazing the goodwill some really talented Scientologists can get to where we just don't think about the Scientology all that often.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
Domestic,
like
it made
go ahead.
Domestic, it made 134 million, so it did well. I think it was just not. I don't know. That sounds like a pretty good amount for Mission Impossible, though. Now we get into what is I think what is sort of being considered the preferred trilogy of this 6 movie run. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol has Brad Bird at the helm now, and I believe this is his first live action feature at this point.
So.
He had done Incredibles, he had done Ratatouille.
Iron
this
Giant.
comes out. Was that
Iron Giant?
Yeah,
Iron Giant? Yes. And this comes out in 2011. And this was a singular experience watching this movie.
We saw this together.
We saw this together. We saw it at IMAX.
Yeah.
And the IMAX scenes in this movie, I mean, you don't even have to watch these in IMAX, but boy, when you do,
I can't believe I never saw it, but I bet that's
Jesus.
The Burj Khalifa scene is unreal. I mean, yeah, you really do feel like you're up there with him in the IMAX scenes of this and whatever. But that whole section of the movie is just nonstop. They get into Burj Khalifa. He has to climb it. He has to do this thing with the security system. He has the glove that's like malfunctioning and everything.
What a great cutaway, by the way, to the glove. After he throws it off, he keeps climbing, and he's like, it sees the thing, and it falls off again.
That's the contribution of Brad Bird, is that for the first time, Mission Impossible is fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like the first 3 movies, say what you will about them, none of them are really that fun. The third one has its moments, but this one is fun, man. And like you said, you're talking to the Burj Khalifa. So after the wall, then he has to go do this impersonation thing.
They have the dual things, and this is a Mission Impossible staple. Well, they've never seen this person before, so I can just pretend to be that person. They even go out of their way. We'll talk about that later in the 6th one. They go out of their way to do that fucking thing in the 6th one.
Yep.
Because it takes forever for that mask to be built for some reason.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get done in time. And he's like, well, let's just hope.
Yeah. Yeah. But they have this dual thing going on where you have the sellers don't know who the buyers are, and the buyers don't know who the sellers are. And there's that great dual thing going on with that deal. And then when shit gets real on that particular part of that. Oh no, there's a sandstorm coming.
They set it up perfectly too, because when he's out there on the side of the building, Benji's like, "What is that?" Or Jeremy Renner's character is like, "What is that?" And Benji just totally dismisses it. He's like, Ethan, it'll be fine. It's a way off. But you see it and you're like, yeah, that's going to factor in this.
I love Simon Pegg in this movie particularly, but in the whole series. But when they first break out Ethan from the jail and he goes to that phone and listens to the thing to get his instructions, and he's like, we're going to the Kremlin, and everybody starts piling into the van, and Simon Pegg's in front, and he's like, I thought he said the Kremlin. And then like a couple seconds go by, and he turns around and looks at Tom Cruise and goes, I thought you said the Kremlin. Cuts to them with the Kremlin.
He's perfect. The opening scene when they bust him out of jail, where he's controlling all the locks and everything, and Tom Cruise is like, do this, gesturing at the camera, and he's talking to him. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And so then Ethan just like puts his thing on his arm on the rail, and he's like, oh, you got to wait. Well, I can wait. And Ethan looks at the guards, and he's like, hey, what are you going to do? He's like,
man,
Bogdan.
That Kremlin scene is one of my favorites too. This is why Ghost Protocol, even though the next two movies from Macquarie, I think a lot of people like better than this one, but this is that whole thing that we just talked about with Burj Khalifa. Then that Kremlin scene is ridiculously fun, man. That whole thing with they have that screen up in front of them, and it has the perfect video. It's the perfect invisibility for them and everything, except there are some problems with it, which is again another thing going back to what Jeremy's saying. This is Brad Bird making it super fun, where like just some weird anomalies start showing up on the screen, and they have to get it off before the guy looks up.
Yeah,
like
one point Simon Pegg's face
comes up,
the whole way.
And you see, as the guard looks up, you see it from the guard's perspective. As he looks up, you can see Ethan just shove Benji out of the way.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of the scene when Mr. Incredible goes to break, first scene when he goes to the island, but the scene when Mrs. Incredible comes to save him, and she gets her leg stuck in the one set of doors, and then she gets her head stuck outside the other set of doors, and her arms in one place and her legs in the other place. It's very reminiscent of that whole sequence to me, where he takes a tension-filled, basically infiltration, and drops humor bombs all over the place in there. And yes, the next two movies, I think, are technologically greater achievements in many ways. But the fun, the pure adrenaline fun kind of resides mostly in Ghost Protocol, I think. It's the one I keep going back to the most, even though they all have, except for two, they all have something I like. This has 5 things I like. I don't cut away from any scene.
It's the only issue, I think, with this movie for me is the very, very end. Yeah. What's crazy is that, and far be it from me to
fight in a Carvana parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. Criticize Brad Bird's pacing, but the Burj Khalifa scene is like at an hour into the movie, and it's essentially halfway through. Then you have all the stuff in Mumbai. Then you have the final conflict with old guy, and it's like
you also got that section where I almost called her Patton Oswalt. God, I'm blanking today.
Paula
Patton. Her job is basically be sexy and seduce the bad guy with your feminine wares, which is just a little skeezy. But
I'm just saying, when you have something as visually arresting as the Burj Khalifa scene, you're going to be hard pressed to come anywhere close to that.
We answered a question on the pod recently about movies that peak, 2/3 of the way through, and I would say this one does.
It definitely does. It definitely does. There's no doubt about it. But then we get into Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. This is Christopher McQuarrie taking over. Tom Cruise had worked with McQuarrie before, had done Jack Reacher. Also, McQuarrie wrote Valkyrie. So I'm sure that the relationship started as far back as then as when they did Valkyrie, and then on to Jack Reacher, and now this. And this is the one where they basically don't really have a home anymore. The IMF isn't that what happens? The IMF is kind of just they can't report back to them anymore. And God, this one has this is one of the best constructed action scenes in it. I hope you're nodding at the same one that I'm about to talk about, the Opera House scene. Where, and it's also maybe the sexiest too, just because of Rebecca Ferguson's mere presence. Because McQuarrie shoots her at that point where her legs are just like the prominent in the screen and everything, and she's ready to pull out guns and stuff and everything. But that scene where Ethan is going up, he has to fight that dude on the top of the beam or whatever, and then like there's two people about to shoot this Russian. Is it a Russian guy? Or
an Austrian guy, and one of them is Ilsa, right?
Yeah, one of them is Ilsa, and then there's a point where he sees that there are two assassins here, and he knows he can't shoot one of them and get away with the other guy, the target, staying alive. So he ends up shooting the target, shooting him in a place where he'll recoil and then miss the other bullets and everything. God, I love that scene so much. I want to eat it.
It may be. I try and pick the best scene in all 6 of these movies so far, and this would be in the conversation and probably the winner. There's a scene in the next one, and then the Burj Khalifa from the previous one would also be in the mix. But that opera scene is just, and again, this is why I don't want to be a director, and I think I would be a bad one. It's not just making pretty images with the camera, it's having the kind of brain to create and construct that opera house sequence, both from the writing all the way to storyboarding and then staging your camera setups, and it's so much more than just a visual flair. Being a great director, and Nolan, I think, is particularly good at this kind of expert planning before he ever even shoots a single thing. And so this is where your respect for McQuarrie goes from, I think he's really talented, to holy shit, like, how do you even do this? And that's just one scene in the movie. I think this is the movie that, really ramped up the Tom Cruise is insane with the stunts thing. The Burj Khalifa stuff was wild, but when he took off on the side of that plane, I mean, I feel like that was when everybody started talking about, this dude will do anything. And of course, he will go on to do some more crazy shit. But I love that plane scene. I love I think I saw this in IMAX because I think both this movie and the 6th movie have shot some in IMAX.
I think so. I think all 3 of them have IMAX sequences. I
felt like I was on the side of that plane. Like, it was a tense fucking scene for me.
That's the best. Look, I know it gives it away, but that trailer was so great because that was the ending of it. No score, nothing, just
yeah,
pulling on and getting higher and higher and higher. And apparently they shot that several times, and he was hanging off the side of that fucking plane.
And Cruise again, just selling it with that whole like,
he's got to remember to act during all these things. He has to act. I don't know how long he actually held his breath underwater in that
scene is another one that's just unreal.
It's hard for me to watch because
I think I read that he trained to hold his breath underwater for as long as that scene was supposed to take place. I doubt he held it that long for any single take, but I do remember reading that he trained to be able to hold his water for longer than normal.
Hold his water? Like Sybil?
Hold his air.
Right.
hold his water.
This also has an ending that I call the Saw ending, because it's just the way they set it up, where like Lane, who's played by Sean Harris, has to follow them around, whatever at the end, and go through that manhole cover and all that.
Yep.
And they get him in that box that's completely invisible. And then they get him in there. Now you just think about that Saw music coming in when he's in that box. Dun 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 dun.
It's such a great reveal, though, because
it is.
Ethan's just eye fucking the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls the gun out and he tries to shoot him, and he's like, "No, motherfucker!"
Yeah,
it's so good. It's so.
Oh
good.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, what are there at the end? There's a whole thing about TV stations and taking over a signal of some sort. What's going on in the end of that movie?
Shit.
Are they trying to bomb? Is he trying to blow it up? I can't remember what he's doing.
Yes,
there.
This is the one with the God's Eye, right? Or is that a Fast and Furious movie?
I think it is. It's the Rabbit's Foot in 3. This one is it's something to do with the Prime Minister, Tom Holland's character, where Ethan has to impersonate his defense guy with Alec Baldwin. By the way, he gets introduced in the franchise. Great character.
Yes.
Playing very Alec Baldwin-y. And they go in and convince the Prime Minister that the syndicate is real, and end up like shooting him in the neck, which is a great scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's something like that, because Lane has him in a corner, and it's a great sequence. I just rewatched this one fairly recently. It's a great sequence where he kidnaps Simon Pegg's character, Benji, and he has Ilsa over a barrel too. And he's got Benji in the explosive vest and everything right by in London. And Ethan cuts a deal with him, basically says, "I've memorized the entirety of this list. I don't think it's a knock list, but it's something like that. And you got to take me and let Benji go." And eventually he does, and that's what leads to that final conflict.
Yeah, and there was something about a bomb he had to find. Like there's a missile that some country wants, and he has to go find somebody who looks a lot like one of the guys in the first Mission Impossible. Actually, it may be the same guy from the. I'm trying to remember if it is the same guy from the blonde hair guy. Is that in this movie? God damn it!
I know there are some things that get a little.
No, that's I think the missile is the fourth movie.
Is that in the fourth one?
That's also where what I thought was the God's Eye is, and it's.
Well, yeah, the missile that's why he has to crash the car at the end of the fourth one, is because the old guy has the missile launch doohickey, so he's got to smush him with the car or whatever it is.
Which is called. Jeremy, which is called
The Magical MacGuffin.
It is, yes. It's definitely the Magical MacGuffin. I just want the name of it. All right, move on.
But yes, Rogue Nation is awesome. But then we get into what I think a lot of people. I'm not on. I mean, I don't disagree with people who think that Fallout is the best one. I like I said, I still prefer Ghost Protocol because of all the fun stuff that's in that. But there is no denying that the stunt work and fights and action sequences in Fallout are some of the best you'll ever fucking see.
Yeah. Right up there with the raid movies and everything.
Yes, and we. We were trying to figure out like whether or not there were IMAX scenes in these last two. Yes, that this one, especially at the end with a helicopter and Ethan's hanging on that little rope thing in the behind Henry Cavill in that one scene. That's a huge IMAX scene. That helicopter fight, man, is fucking. That chase is ridiculous. Absolutely amazing.
He goes, she says, like, what are you going to do? Because Henry Cavill's in a different helicopter. He's got to find a way to get from his helicopter into another helicopter in mid fucking air. And he's like, I'll figure something out.
Yet another movie, yet another marketing or whatever you want to call it thing where the Tom Cruise was shown to be behind the controls of this helicopter, was flying it himself. They did that big, huge promotional 5-minute preview thing that I think got everybody. I mean, they're smart when they're making these movies, man. Like they could sell it on the name alone, but to come out with these little interesting little snippets is what really pushes them over the top, I think, which really gets like the casual person back in.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of showing, look at how complicated this is, and also look at how crazy Tom Cruise is. And I think ultimately these movies, especially, I'm pretty sure they have signed for at least 2, 7 and 8. It might be as much as 3. But, I mean, the drive at this point, that's why you market it that way, is people want to see what the fuck is this guy going to do next? Or how did he break his spine this time? Let's spot the scene where his spleen burst. The jump, it's not just a regular parachute jump. I forget the name for it.
A halo jump.
Like a halo jump. It's I call it the way the fuck up there near space jump. And it's not easy, and he did it 100 times or more because they had to. First of all, he had to learn how to do it, and then they had to get these specific light conditions to match what they were shooting. Just again, people think acting. Oh, I love to be an actor. Well, never be Tom Cruise. That doesn't. There's so few people for whom that would be fun. I'm going to spend 2 years on this movie learning how to fly a helicopter while operating the cameras inside it, and learning how to do halo jumps. So, it's ultimately a combination, I think, of his particular brand of star power and the way that the films have continued to evolve and elevate that keeps this franchise, relevant and interesting to people. What is this fucker going to do next? Going to go to space with James Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I was alluding to. They went way out of their way to do this whole "he hasn't seen you before" thing to do this, because there's a guy they want to emulate, but they don't know what he looks like. So this is a unique challenge for them. This leads to this big bathroom fight that's fucking brutal.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's so good, but like Henry Cavill beats his ass so bad that they can't get the mask to work to look like him, and so they can't use it, and so Ethan ends up going up to Vanessa Kirby and just pretends to be that dude without having the mask on the whole time.
Yeah.
And she's hinted at being the granddaughter of Vanessa Redgrave from the first movie, which we didn't talk about Vanessa Redgrave from the first movie, who's excellent, by the way, in that first movie. What a huge person to get into that villain role. I love her in that, but they sort of hint that she's the granddaughter of her in that movie,
and she's evil, but she's not all the way evil. She literally, I love her character. First of all, she's absolutely gorgeous. Yep. But also, she just wants to get her money and get out of there. Like it shows like her brother is kind of an asshole. Like he doesn't mind killing people. But she's just kind of morally ambivalent, which I appreciate. I hope she's in, several more of these, because she's awesome.
That's sort of what we get with Vanessa Ferguson too. I mean, Rebecca Ferguson, not Vanessa Ferguson. That's what we get with Rebecca Ferguson too, because she's always seemingly having to choose one side or another in her things as well. So that's always the intrigue of these spy movies: is who do they have to serve in this, and does it conflict with Ethan Hunt's job and everything? There's so many good things in this, though, man. That him thinking a million steps ahead about how this prison break's going to happen on the truck, and then it's kind of a cheat, but it is an awesome scene that shows him already thinking about how this is going to go, and then how he's going to solve it. And he goes all the way back to him like it's Final Destination and shit. And he's like, and all right, we're going to do this, but I got to think of how in the fuck we're going to get away with this. And how I'm going to both look like I'm on your side and then not be on your side afterwards. What do we think of is it, what's his first
Solomon
name?
Lane?
Is it Solomon Lane? Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep it they in Fallout, IMDb actually says Solomon Lane. In the previous one, it's just like Lane.
Yeah, because he's the head of the syndicate.
What do we think of him as one of the baddies? He gets 2 movies to do that.
Yeah, I hope they don't bring him back. They probably will. I think they're trying to develop their own Murdoch from the old MacGyver.
Yeah,
villain that recurs every season. He's okay. He's not bad, of course. I think that's one thing the series shows that it struggles with is good villains, and the third one is really the only really good villain. And the rest of them all suffer from this because they focus so much on Ethan and his team. But yeah, give him more to do. I think the actor is fine playing the villain here. He just doesn't seem to have much to do other than sneer and sound British.
Yeah, the fallout,
the
Ethan.
Fallout, Ethan. The fallout.
I do like the twist in this with Henry Cavill being the ultimate villain, because he sets up as, none of these guys from Voight to I guess maybe Dougray Scott. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, the old guy that gets his ass beaten, the Carvana, Lane, they don't seem physically imposing. But obviously, Henry Cavill's the perfect foil for Ethan. He's giant. He's probably 2 Tom Cruises stacked together on top of each other. And so I do like that switch. Of course, they ended up, killing him. But anyway.
No, I love everything also outside of that helicopter scene, because while that's happening, they're looking for that nuclear bomb, and there's that run in with Michelle Monaghan and surprise Wes Bentley,
sudden Wes Bentley,
and she begins to realize that the only fucking reason why Ethan Hunt would even be in this area is because something bad's about to happen. I love that. Oh, it's great to get to catch up and blah, 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 blah. And then she realizes, oh, you being here is probably not a good idea, especially when she finds out Luther's there too.
Yeah.
I love the fight that Simon Pegg and Rebecca Ferguson have in the shack where they're tied up. That's a very inventive fight sequence. It's really, there aren't a lot of weak spots in this movie. Like we were talking how even Ghost Protocol has kind of a weak ending. This one does not. Like everything throughout is pretty solid. I think that's why it is a lot of people's favorite, is this just doesn't have very many weak spots at all. But like you, Chris, I prefer Ghost Protocol just for that little dash of fun. But we're in good hands with McQuarrie. The last 2 have been fantastic. These next 2 will be fantastic. I have no doubt.
It's amazing to get a movie where like the behind the scenes footage is every bit as interesting as the actual movie itself. Because you see McQuarrie tweeting pictures of like scouting locations on that cliff face where the final sequence is, Tom Cruise learning how to, it always amazes me. I keep saying this, but it amazes me that he remembers to act in that helicopter sequence where he's like, I don't know what's going on right now. He's not, his character isn't a helicopter pilot. So he's like, I'll figure this out. So he has to look like he doesn't know what he's doing, as he's clearly not only doing something dangerous, but operating the cameras and all that shit too. Yeah. It's incredible. This is a feat. I mean, the fucking one stunt that we haven't talked about is the motorcycle stuff in Paris.
No, God damn. It's so good.
Having seen the Arc de Triomphe in person and seeing how much traffic is around that circle, the fact that he goes through that shit is like, and apparently they actually did. They figured out a way to space those cars to actually get him in there. Oh God.
And there's a great visual scene too, where he's driving through Paris and he goes to that thing where there's all the bars are on the left and right side and everything. And as he speeds through it, those bars are all like, it looks like he's going through a warp of some sort or whatever. But is it Rogue Nation where Simon Pegg makes that magnet thing where he's like, it'll catch you?
That's Ghost Protocol.
Oh, is that Ghost Protocol?
Oh yeah, because Jeremy Renner has
Jeremy Renner.
The
Jeremy
stuff
Renner
on.
that
Yeah, because he guides him through and everything. He's like, what?
Another scene in Ghost Protocol. It's so funny because Simon Pegg is so confident that it's going to work, and he's pissed off that anybody thinks that it's not. And he's like, "So you want me to jump out of here, and then it'll catch you?"
That's the fun, man. And right before that, Jeremy Renner. I think is almost underused in these movies. He's not in Fallout at all. I don't think.
Nope.
But they show the scene of him stretching before he gets into the shoot and everything.
Yeah,
it's so good. And then, of course, in Fallout, you've got that wonderful scene where Benji doesn't have
Rogue
the
Nation.
thing. The Mac. No. In Fallout, where he doesn't have the MacBook or whatever it is in 3D, and he's like, "Okay, go that way." And he's like, he throws the chair out the window. He's like, "Why aren't you going?" He's like, "I'm jumping out a window."
And there's that woman behind him and all the office workers. There's that woman behind him who gives him that nod like, yeah, you can do this. Buddy.
That's the hallmark that I don't think was even in, certainly not the first two. The fact that before he goes out to the Burj Khalifa, Ethan is scared. Like, Simon Pegg is just like accepting that he's going to do this. And he's like, all right, go ahead. And he's like, hang on 1 second before he goes out. It's the same thing with jumping out the window. You think, oh, of course he's going to jump out the window. He's Ethan Hunt. But he's like, holy shit, this is good. And this is where I think he broke his foot, right?
Yeah.
Was that jump?
Yeah. No, it might have been the jump from the window. It's where he was landing on top of a building or runway or whatever that was what got him.
Even for Tom Cruise, that's an epic running sequence. He runs
is.
Almost the entire length of Paris.
It's really well shot too. Makes it seem like he's going 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I want to watch it again right now. I want to watch this whole series again.
No, and we probably even missed some highlights as well. Just that's how many like good things in there. And talking about Jeremy Renner, we've discussed this before too. We've always wondered if he was supposed to be the replacement Tom Cruise, like they were grooming him to be that. Now, I don't know how close that is, considering Cruise is like a main power behind these movies. Like, I think he and what is it? His producing partner, is it Paula Wagner or Laura Wagner? I can't remember. Paula Wagner. Right. I think I don't know. They're the force behind the movie. So if they were putting Renner in as a possible replacement, then that's Tom Cruise saying, "Oh well, I still want to have Mission Impossible later. Well, guess we'll use Jeremy Renner if people don't like me." But obviously, people like him a lot. And Renner, I don't know if Renner I don't think he's got it in him to be what Tom Cruise is in these movies.
No,
I really
certainly
don't
not.
think he does.
I don't even know. I know that in Ghost Protocol, Léa Seydoux and Patton Oswalt did the actual fight. They did the fight sequence in the Burj Khalifa themselves with no stunt doubles because of Tom Cruise. I know that Henry Cavill was in the plane. I don't think he jumped in the Halo jump because he's not psychotic. But you have to be psychotic. You got to be like Tom Cruise, which he was doing all the way back in the first movie, to want to do this. And
there's nobody else.
Self-preservation is not to be disdained. Like, I understand.
When he's done doing it, there's nobody else that's going to come along to do that kind of stuff. They're going to have to either completely reinvent what Mission Impossible means, but The Rock is not going to fucking jump out of a plane 100 times.
No.
They'd have to get one of these, Eco Uwais kind of guys to do it, because
that would be rad.
It would be tremendously rad. But that's what I think. They're going to have to find one of these Hong Kong, Thailand action stars to do it, because I don't know many Americans that are going to do Tom Cruise stuff if Tom Cruise decides to
You're right. Well, part of it is, he's unique even in the American film industry because of insurance. And I think there's some, I'll just pay for my own insurance kind of shit going on with his bank account. But most studios wouldn't let, The Rock jump out of a plane 100 times.
Yeah.
These days, studios are telling their stars to apologize to China for calling Taiwan a state.
Yep.
That was a weird ass story that kept coming up in every publication that I looked at.
God.
Yeah, John Cena's definitely not going to be doing this stuff.
When does Mission Impossible 7 come out? It says 2022, May 27th, 2022 is when it's
it was supposed to be this year.
It's in the can, right? Like it's all done.
They finished filming, yeah.
Really?
I can't wait.
Look, I'm pretty sure.
Tom Cruise stuff, except for American Made, any Tom Cruise joint is going to be appointment viewing for me. I'm going to see Top Gun Maverick probably in IMAX.
Maybe that's why it got pushed back that far. Maybe he doesn't want to compete with Top Gun, and there wasn't any way to put it over the summer. So they're like, okay, well, let's do the fall. But then they remembered that Top Gun also has to come out. So maybe that's the reason why they pushed it back that far.
Well, and they wrapped in February, but originally they were going to shoot 7 and 8 simultaneously.
That's right.
And during the pandemic, they changed that. So they are wrapped on 7, and probably on post-production there and pre-production on 8, this movie, I guess.
Was it 7, the set of Mission Impossible 7 where Tom Cruise went off on that guy for not wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's even recently defended that in what was both fair-minded and egotistical response, where he basically took credit for creating the system that allowed Hollywood to go back to filming, basically.
I saw that. A lot of people defended him. A lot of people said, oh, no, he's right. But, dude,
I defended him.
The amount, it's just like Tom Cruise. Everything is a little over the top. Yep. Like, he could have cut that off at 30 seconds and gotten his point across.
Oh, for sure.
It goes for 5 minutes or whatever the fuck.
I bet even when he eats eggs, he does it at 11.
Yeah, he does. He does. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
He eats the fuck out of those eggs.
Yeah, he does.
Can't take this shit lightly.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
BetterHelp! Yay! It's so good. Online counseling. I just did it last week. Online counseling right there in your pocket, on your laptop, on your desktop. We've talked a lot about, like, how convenient this is and wonderful, and that you'd have to be prepared. You got to, try to work your way through it and everything. But honestly, I don't talk enough about, like, the joy of the therapeutic process, the counseling process, because it's hard for me to wrap my head around, especially at first, but you can sit there for an hour and talk about yourself, like really anything that you want to address. Like, I've been feeling sad the last week, or I've been feeling, relaxed, or I've been feeling worried, or I've been feeling stressed. And just talking about that stuff and getting honest feedback from a trained person, a trained counselor, is really a nice thing because, we as Americans in particular, typically don't focus on ourselves. We typically focus on either what people think of us or other people. It's hard to really carve out some time to address yourself. And BetterHelp helps people do that all the time. Online, professional, licensed counselors that are there for you, and you get matched up to them, and you're on your way. It's so good. It's so good.
I just realized something, and I need your help because I don't know.
It's David Bowie. David Bowie.
Well, I was just realizing how versatile BetterHelp is. Mm-hmm. And you said in your pocket, and I started thinking, man, I could do BetterHelp from right here at my desktop computer. Mm-hmm. I could do it from my bedroom. Uh-huh. I don't have to use video if I don't want. If I don't look presentable or have my makeup on, I could go out in the front yard, climb a tree, and I could do BetterHelp. And it made me start thinking of green eggs and ham. Like I could do it on a train. I could do it in the rain. I could do it in the dark. I could do it on a lark with a fox in a box. You can do it anywhere. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that it is versatile to your need that day. And it may change from appointment to appointment. You may want to do it by phone. You may want to do video chat. You may want to just do text. And you can. And you can still get help. And I just think it's wonderfully versatile, and it makes therapy more appealing to a wider audience.
Yeah, this is good stuff. This is, okay, sometimes you're going to be challenged. Sometimes you're going to have to delve into the reasons behind why you're feeling the way that you are. And sometimes that's not pleasant. But by and large, this is a very pleasant process. BetterHelp, you listener, you've heard us talk about it before. Do it right now. Go to BetterHelp.com/SinCast. 10% off your first month. And you're on your way, man. If you've been delaying it, if you're like, I'll do that later. Later is today. So do it now. BetterHelp.com/SinCast.
That was fun going over all those Mission Impossibles. I don't remember everything like I would want to, but there's at least four classics in that series.
Yep.
One movie that vies for it, but doesn't quite. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman alone nearly makes Mission Impossible 3 a classic.
Yeah.
Yep. And then one dud. You can't find very many series that do that well over 6 movies. All right, well, let's go to the recommends and warns.
Totes Amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Oh, I want to start.
All right.
Yes.
Army of the fucking Dead.
Army of the fucking Dead.
It really should be called fucking Army of the fucking Dead. Have either of you guys seen this yet?
I have not.
No. I think it has a cool premise, but I have not seen it, and I have heard a lot of
it does.
mixed to negative reactions.
I heard very good things. Currently, it stands at 70% aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes, a 5.9 on IMDb. I know what this movie is trying to do. I know it's not trying to be Citizen Kane. Okay, I'm not comparing it to Inception or something like that. Mm-hmm. But this movie is so fucking dumb. Like it has to try to be dumb. Dave Bautista seems like a nice guy. Generally. He was very good in Blade Runner 2049. He wasn't asked to do a whole lot. He's always funny as Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy and all that stuff. I always thought he was a superfluous character, but he is funny, especially the whole I'm invisible and starts eating Cheetos or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I never saw Stuber, but having seen Army of the Dead, I don't know if this cat's a leading man. All right. He just doesn't have the acting chops. He's obviously got the physicality and he can do action stuff.
Sir, you need to watch Final Score because that's the movie for you, buddy.
I remember you've like warned or talked about that.
I think I straight up warned the shit out of that movie, actually.
So the premise of this movie is that, by the way, everybody talks about the opening sequence, the opening titles of this movie. The opening titles are fantastic. It shows how the zombies came to be in Las Vegas, what they did, and how the government walled off the city. And so that's the conceit of this movie. There's a zombie outbreak. There's an alpha zombie that came out of the thing because somebody gave another person a roadhead, gave him a blowjob, and he crashed into an army truck carrying an alpha zombie, and he went to Vegas, infected everybody, and so the government decided, fuck it, we're going to wall Vegas off. Then we're going to nuke it. We're going to nuke Vegas. And so, like, all the vestiges of people around Vegas, they're like, we got to get out of here because they're going to nuke it. But there's a guy that has money in a casino in Vegas, and he wants these people, a team of people, to break in, get that money, and they get a certain percentage of it. So they have to invade the Army of the Dead. Sounds like an interesting concept, right?
It really does. Except for the fact that I think by the time you wall off Las Vegas, that virus has gone all over the place. Like, I'm no virologist.
Dude, that is the least of your worries in this fucking movie. I mean, I cannot wait to send this movie. First of all, this one is a long one. It's 148 minutes, which is fucking ridiculous.
Jesus.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the single most offensive part of this movie, and there's a lot of offensive shit in this. There's a sequence at the very end where one character dies and another character is tending to that person as that person dies, and they start playing the Cranberries' Zombie. Except the acoustic version. So
he's doing his Dawn of the Dead thing, like where he had Richard Cheese and the Lounge Lizards doing.
Well, it's still the
Sickness.
Cranberries. It's the Cranberries doing their acoustic version of this.
He should have used the children's choir.
Yes.
That song is about the IRA bombing in London that killed 2 kids.
Yeah.
And he literally used it because it's called Zombie. And I'm like, what?
I think that's a pretty good summation of Zack Snyder, if you ask me.
Yep.
I mean, fuck a duck. This movie's so fucking dumb. Are there things that are decent? Maybe. There's some interesting action, but it's, of course, slow motion and everything. There's some interesting effects, but it's also... The zombie looks are not very good. The standout for this is Ella Purnell, who plays Dave Bautista's daughter. And she is, I don't mean this to sound pejorative because she's a young female, but she's a firecracker, meaning that she just really stands out on the screen. She's gorgeous, obviously, but she's also, it seems like she's got a little juice in the tank, a little junk in the trunk. Little extra oomph. She was in. Chris and I were talking the other day. She was in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children with Asa Butterball. So yeah, Tig Notaro is good in her role, but the movie all the way over is hot garbage. I think people, if you're going to watch this, you're going to watch this. But keep your expectations very, very low, and maybe they'll be exceeded.
Are the Snyder Bros out in force on this movie at all?
It seems a little muted, but yes, I think they're all supporting it. I've seen some crossover of the Snyderverse Army of the Dead hashtags.
What is the deal with those people? I thought it was just literally Justice League. Like they loved these characters so much that they wanted to
telling
see
them. He keeps feeding them by showing drawings and telling them what he would have done, and I would have had this person play Robin, and I would have had this person play Green Lantern, and I would have had this in the next movie, and this would have been and so now they want all of that, and
so they're Snyder Bros. They're not Justice League Bros. They're on board with whatever this dude does.
I have compared it to. Not everybody who likes Zack Snyder movies is a Snyder bro. Let's be clear about that.
That's true.
If you're listening to us and you like Zack Snyder movies, that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about people who spam and harass online. And I compared it recently to K-pop in that it's a cult of personality.
Yeah.
You can't convince me that American K-pop fans love that music. It's just like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift could put out an album of her farting, and all the Swifties would be like, "It's the best art I've ever heard," because they
that was
love
basically
Taylor
Reputation,
Swift.
by the way.
They have deified her, and so everything she does is perfect. That's what's happened with Zack Snyder and that one section of Volatile Snyder Bros. Everything he does, all his ideas are great.
That's fascinating.
Sucker Punch getting a resurgence of love from this one specific group of Snyder Bros.
Wow.
Like, oh, Sucker Punch is brilliant, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you are just drinking Kool-Aid now. You love the man. Doesn't matter what he does. And that's okay, I guess, to a certain extent.
I was just about to say, like when we did an Everything Wrong with Sucker Punch, that's where I first saw there was this. It was the first time I saw that kind of thing, that kind of phenomenon. I think where everybody's sort of dedicated to this one director. I remember we did that. And the comments I was like sitting there going, "There's actually love for this movie."
That movie's
how can you
garbage.
defend this movie?
Yeah,
there's just nothing. I mean, honestly, and so like that was the first taste of it, and then the Justice League thing just exacerbated everything. But yeah, they're Snyder Bros. Anytime a new Zack Snyder comes out, they're out in force.
So were they Snyder Bros? I'm sorry to stay on this for so long. Were they Snyder Bros before Justice League, or they became Snyder Bros?
Yes.
Because
100% yes.
Yes, and they have added to their numbers since Justice League and the whole like Snyder Cut.
Because I believe we came out with that Sucker Punch video before any Snyder Cut stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's always been a thing.
Because of 300, Sucker Punch, and Watchmen. I think when he got the job to do Man of Steel, there were already Snyder Bros who were like, "This is the best decision that anybody's ever made."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Army of the Dead sucks balls.
I am going to record warn, and I want to make this a hard recommend, but I gotta make some caveats, and there are enough caveats that it's going to pull it into a record warn. But yesterday, while flipping channels, I discovered a television show that is a year and a half old that I had never heard of, and it's called Court Cam. Dun, dun,
Court
dun.
Cam.
And it is basically like if you mixed Cops with People's Court, only something interesting, horrifying, or fucking crazy is going to happen on every single court case they show you. So the first caveat is this show's a little trashy at times. The second caveat is that, like a lot of reality shows on cable, it's a lot of filler. Before they go to the break, here's what's coming up next. And it'll be a 20-second scene. And when they come back from break, they'll play that same fucking 20 seconds again.
God,
here's
I
what
hate
you're
that
about
shit.
to see. And then they go into the thing. There's a lot of commercials. But I found this shit fascinating. So the very first thing that I saw was a kid from Lebanon, Tennessee. And these are, the cameras are security cameras. Sometimes they're cameras set up because they're broadcasting local television or nationally. So you get all sorts of different camera angles and views. But the first one I saw was the kid in Lebanon, Tennessee, who was there for just a preliminary hearing for his marijuana possession charge. And he lights up while at the podium talking to the judge about how marijuana is a good drug. The next one I see is this dude. I forget where this guy is, but he's angry, and he's there, and the judge sets his bail at $25,000. He's like an armed robber. And he starts laughing at her. And she's like, "You think that's funny?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she said, $50,000.
Oh, Jesus.
And as he's being led away, he turns back around and flips her off and mouths off. And she's like, 30 days, contempt of court. And he turns around to say something else and then leaves. And you can see the judge turn to her clerk and go, "It's a good thing he didn't come back. He just would have got another 30 days. Jesus. Well, guess what? He came back. And she goes, "Contempt of court, 100 days," before he even says a thing. And then he walks out. And in the hallway, he yells, "I can't wait to see you on the street after all this and punch your bitch face." And she goes,
God.
"Bring him back in." And she had to add all these charges to him for mouthing off.
What a
There's
dumbass.
episodes where people try to escape by running from court in their cuffs. I saw a clip where, much like the night of, a girlfriend of a prisoner pretended to be a curious law student and was talking to a lawyer and sat in a chair and used her hand to put something under the chair. And then her boyfriend comes in for his hearing an hour later and grabs the drugs from under the chair that she left him. But there's also, this heartfelt shit. So one was a wedding of two people who had lived together and had 3 kids. One of their kids had died 6 years ago. They're getting married in a courthouse. A judge is doing the wedding. And right before he pronounces them, he brings in the guy who got their kid's heart donated to him so they can stethoscope, listen to their son's heartbeat on their wedding day as they say I do. That one made me cry. Then there's ones where they do witness victim something statements where the victims of a crime get to tell the perpetrator before he's sentenced how the crime impacted their lives. And there's some of those are angry, but some of them are oddly forgiving and loving. And then on top of that, it'll be like, you are charged with the murder and dismembering of Lucy Watkins. And so far, we have only recovered her torso because you have refused to tell us where her head, hands, and feet are. So it's like oddly R-rated sometimes, and then heartfelt PG. And that's just a little bit of everything across the board. These are the people who made that live PD show. In fact, the host of that show is the host of this show. Too many commercials, occasionally trashy, occasionally exploitative, but riveting. And I watched that shit for it was on for 4 or 5 hours. They ran a whole marathon of it. And that's my recommend with a little bit of Warren in there.
No, what is it on? What is it on?
It's on A&E. A&E.
Oh,
A&E or AMC. Ooh.
I don't think I've watched the show on A&E.
This sounds very A&E.
A&E.
Yeah.
A&E used to be like biographies and like, actual interesting stuff. And I haven't watched anything on there in ages. I think that was the network that had Live PD, right?
I think it was. Yeah. That show got canceled last fall.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of anniversaries, this is the 30-year anniversary of New Jack City.
Oh, I love this movie.
A movie I had never seen before.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Oh my God!
Wesley Snipes.
Yes. This is. I remember I was 14 years old when this movie came out. Obviously, not old enough to go see it at the time. But there was a lot of I think bullshit stories about how this movie was causing violence and people were like killing each other in theaters and stuff like that. And it's like, and then forever, if you were, especially at Hollywood 27 and everything, anytime you would get any kind of black movie at all, it wasn't a gangster movie or anything, there would always be concerns about getting more security in the theater and everything. But the New Jack City I'd never seen before, and as years went on, I just never really heard much about it. But it was always something that was just like, it was something like, I need to see this movie at some point. I've got the Blu-ray of it. I need to watch it. So yeah, New Jack City is about crack cocaine in the 80s. New York. Wesley Snipes is a big time drug dealer, but he's smarter than your average drug dealer. That's one thing that I kind of wish that they would have gone more in depth on was his intelligent moves in this movie. They don't do that nearly enough, I don't think. But he has this idea that he's going to take over an entire apartment complex, the Carter complex. You may have heard of the Carter in a lot of these like Lil Wayne albums. And I believe that's what he models the title of those albums off of, is the Carter Apartments. He wants to take this over and have his own drug lab inside of it, and basically just getting all the people who live in the building and anybody who neighbors the building on his product, because just like cocaine is huge, but crack cocaine is becoming like even bigger amongst the aficionados and everything. So we have a variety of characters here. Ice-T plays a cop in this movie, and that's, we're in 2021. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but in 1991, that was a huge deal because he had his lifestyle, all his songs were very anti-cop type
cop
stuff.
Killer.
Hell, cop killer.
Yeah. He was doing body count back in those days.
Right. And he was not known for any kind. In fact, this is one of his first roles, I think. And And I read up on some things later too, was that Mario Van Peebles, who directed this movie, overheard Ice-T talking some shit in a bathroom at a club one night, and he told all of his people, "I want that guy to play the cop in my movie." And Ice-T was like, "I don't know, you hear people all the time saying they want to do stuff with you, and you don't think it's going to go anywhere. But like the next week, I'm driving on the lot of Warner Brothers, and I'm trying out for this part." And also notable, Chris Rock plays a character called Pookie in this, who is at first he's just kind of a thief. He's pretending to be a drug dealer or whatever. He steals Ice-T's, like Ice-T's an undercover cop, and Pookie steals his money at the beginning of this thing. It leads to a relationship where when Pookie actually gets hooked on crack, Ice-T takes him under his wing and tries to get him to get off the drug and everything, and even hires him to be on the undercover team that's trying to infiltrate Nino Brown's The Carter establishment and everything. So it's a series of Ice-T and Judd Nelson. I couldn't fucking believe Judd Nelson was in this movie. He's great in it. He's great. They partner up and they're trying to take Nino Brown down, and they get a lot of evidence about what's going on in this operation, but they can never seem to get Nino Brown himself during this whole thing. And meanwhile, Nino is he's fucking around. He's got I don't know if it's his wife or it's his girlfriend, but he treats her like shit, starts fucking this other woman who just so happens to be his best friend, G Money's girl, and everything. So he's causing some tension in his own organization about some of the actions that he's doing. And meanwhile, also his takeover of the Carter apartments is a big slap in the face to the Italian mob that's in place here, because generally if you want to take over a place, you have to ask permission, or you have to do something. I don't know what the fuck you'd have to do. You'd have to start a war to actually take people's turf, I guess, and that's what he kind of does. Anytime somebody comes out and says, "Hey, this is our turf," and everything, he treats them like shit, and I think almost expects them to just leave him alone during this movie. Spoiler alert, they don't leave him alone. But
Wesley Snipes is a badass in this movie.
Oh yeah, he sure is. And Wesley Snipes, believe it or not, was not a huge star at this point either. He had done Major League, and I don't know if much anything. He'd been a small character actor in some things, but I don't think he had become a big star at this point. So like a lot of this movie is a bunch of people who we look at as big stars now, but at the time they weren't. And so Chris Rock, right. You sit there and go, "Oh my God, Chris Rock is playing this small character in this and everything." No, he wasn't big either. But this movie
on King of New York as a really crazy character, almost similar, like a crazy version of Nino Brown, and he had done Mo Better Blues, but I don't think he was a huge character in that.
Yeah, I don't think he's a huge character in that, and he's certainly not a huge star by this point. It's after this and White Men Can't Jump and all that. That's where he becomes a big star. But I really enjoyed this. I mean, especially when you go back into this era, man, you start listening to the music that's going on in this. This is just, oh my God, I'm so 14 again watching this movie. This is just a movie full of great performances, a nice plot, and God, why haven't I not seen this before?
That's a good movie.
Basically, what it comes down to
recently, yeah.
Okay, so to round up what we just talked about, I recommended New Jack City. Barrett, he says warn, amend, Army of the Dead, but are you
no, like why did I say that? No,
straight up warn.
It's straight up warn. No, it's past Barrett is a dumbass.
Mm-hmm. And Jeremy Recca-warned Court Cast.
I'm going to totally watch this.
TV show that's on A&E here in the States. Let's go on to questions.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth. I am listening.
All right, let's do the first one. You know, I'm going to go for the horny stuff. Here we go. Hey, you lovely fellas. Hi. My question is an interesting one. Well, good for you. What movie did you want to watch because of the explicit sexual content that you ended up liking the whole thing? This person's example is Y Tu Mama Tambien, movie I first saw on Sundance Channel, and the only reason I wanted to start watching it was the sexuality of it, and ended up really loving it. Of course you did. That movie fucking rules.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Basic Instinct all the way, baby. I was 14 or 15, and I saw that trailer. Oh my God, was gave me 5 boners. I was like, holy shit! Can they do this movie in theaters? Is this for real? I did not see it in theaters, obviously not old enough to go watch that, but I did sneak it later on, because of, some curiosities with the Blockbuster card back in the day, where I don't think my parents put an age restriction on it. So I could technically just go and get Basic Instinct and stuff, but also a friend rented it. And I think that's where I first saw any part of it. But it's weird. I actually enjoy Basic Instinct. To take the sex scenes out of it, it's such a fucking ludicrous movie.
Yes, it is.
Paul Verhoeven, like in everything that he does, you have to look for the insanity that's involved and all that. And there's nothing real about Basic Instinct whatsoever. But the idea that especially men like Michael Douglas plays in this movie, who think they're the hero of their own story and everything. I love this idea that there's someone who's there to keep them in check, basically, and say, look, you aren't as big of a deal as you think you are and everything. But anyway, yeah, I watched that movie because of some sex, and Sharon Stone was the epitome of sexiness back then. And I very much watched it because of that. Another one, which I don't think that you guys put down, and if you did, I'm sorry if you did, but Eyes Wide Shut. Even though Eyes Wide Shut ended up not being like as salacious as I thought it was going to be, because remember, there were 100 rumors about that movie while they were shooting it.
Orgy scene.
Scene. There was a rumor that Harvey Keitel, while he was still on that movie, got so aroused during one scene that Nicole Kidman had to call somebody and get him fired or something, which it fucking didn't happen.
Do you know why he left that set, by the way? I just found this out. Because of all the takes that Kubrick wanted to do.
Yeah,
he was like, there was one scene where he got to like 20 takes, and Keitel was like, "Fuck this," and just walked out.
Yeah,
don't ever work with Fincher then, Harvey.
Yeah, no kidding. But I just remember Eyes Wide Shut because it just felt like it was going to be this just sex-orama all the way through it. But if you knew anything about, this is the thing, I knew a lot about Kubrick, but when Eyes Wide Shut came out, I should have been like, but I was 22 when this movie came out. Yeah. So I wasn't thinking on these terms, but I was like, I should have just stopped by and, I mean, Kubrick has had nudity in his movies before, but it's not like he's gone like crazy with it, like crazy horny or anything with it. And that's exactly what the movie, especially the first movie, the first version we saw, where the orgy scene is just a bunch of like, they put they put these people in black robes in front of all the sex that was going on. So, but that was one that drew me in. I just remember because we had 3 prints of Eyes Wide Shut, telling the projectionist is like, all right, I think I've told this story before. All right, we're all going to get a print of Eyes Wide Shut, and we'll all go into our personal spank holes to watch that. And then you watch it, and you're like, "Oh,
movie, that movie is horny, but it's not as explicit as you would think." I mean, the sexiest thing to me is the opening shot of Nicole Kidman with the dress dropping.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. Yeah. It's a great call.
I also have two answers to this question.
Sweet.
The first one was Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Because when Boogie Nights came out, I had actually seen Hard Eight, his first movie. I did not know Boogie Nights was from the guy who made Hard Eight. I just knew movie, lots of stars, literally about the porn industry and a guy with a giant dick and lots of nudity. And honestly, that movie could have sucked and I would have enjoyed it. But just so happens to be an amazing movie, a fantastic movie that also has lots of nudity and a big giant dick. The other one is The Player, and this might sound a little odd, but The Player has one of the fucking sexiest sex scenes. Sweaty, moaning, close up on sweaty bodies. And of course, this movie came out before I was going to movies and theaters. So we're at the video store and a friend recommends I watch this movie. Well, what's it about? Well, it's about the business behind the making of movies. And I said, that sounds boring. And he said, it's got one of the best sex scenes ever in it. And I said, that sounds awesome. So I rented that movie, and it is not a boring movie. It's a fantastic movie. That also happens to, right in the middle, have one of the sexiest scenes I've ever, like, he and the wife or girlfriend of the dude he killed go out to this like desert spa where from what I gather, you just take turns having sex and getting massages. In between one of those, they're having sex, and it's really it's kind of and so yeah, those are the two that sprang to mind as I only watched because of nudity or sex scenes, but both fantastic.
I brought up this scene actually when there was another question that we had where was the sexiest sex scene you've ever seen or whatever. And it might have been, and it might have also been one that it might have been one of those where it's like it contained no nudity, because there's no nudity in that sex scene.
Yeah, I don't think there is nudity in that scene.
I have checked very closely.
Very thoroughly, yes. But Greta Scacchi says something to the effect of, take me somewhere and watch me melt or something. And then the sex scene happens right after that. And it's got this soundtrack behind it too. That's just, it's like, there's something very sexy about it. The soundtrack itself, while this very close up steamy scene is going on. Oh, it's so good. That's a great choice.
My first one, Nymphomaniac Volume 1. Lars von Trier, all about a nymphomaniac. Of course, Stacey Martin is beautiful. And I was like, hey, I want to see people fuck in like a mainstream movie. And I had seen Dancer in the Dark. I'd seen, I think, a couple of Lars von Trier movies. Oh, I'd seen Breaking the Waves too. So I was like, should be crazy. Let's do it. And there's a lot of fucking in there. A lot of fucking. But I truly believe that it's a good movie. I think there's enough there. I tell you what, Volume 2 nearly ruins that experience for me because you figure out what happens with Stellan Skarsgård's character. I think that's the point. But I think it's a very good movie. Stacey Martin is fantastic. I've talked about the Uma Thurman scene a million times. She's spectacular in this. I think Shia LaBeouf is actually good in this movie. But yeah, I ended up really liking it. But there is a lot of fucking, and that's why I went there in the first place.
It's funny that Shia LaBeouf, like one of the stories I heard about this movie, about his audition, was that he actually gave Lars von Trier some video of him having sex with his girlfriends or something like that. And to get the part, but then none of the main actors are when you're seeing actual sex on screen are present in those scenes. Right. He's done something very strange with, I don't know, something with the effects or something where it's amazing. Look like it really looks exactly like everybody's having sex there, but
it really is a technological marvel. How he did that while preserving, the actual actors not having to do that, except for Shia LaBeouf tongue fucking Stacey Martin. That's for real. In her mouth, not in her But
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, I truly think that's a good movie, and I've watched it several times, not just for the sex. Although the sex is very real, I mean, very realistic. And you see the penetration and you see the ejaculation and stuff like that. And the other one that I watched purely for my horny self was Blue is the Warmest Color.
Oh, yeah.
And that turned out to be really, really good and deep movie. Like that movie is emotionally very volatile. And Lea Seydoux is really, really good. Adele Axcapaladas is terrific in there. And their relationship, I know there's things have come out about the execution of the scenes and stuff like that, because a lot of it was very intimate. The director did not use doubles for this.
Right.
And I don't want to minimize that, but that's why I watch that movie. And the emotional beats of that relationship between the two are really what, draws you back to it. It doesn't hurt that they're, what do they call it? Tribbing?
Yes. Yes.
What? No, scissoring. That's what she says in Booksmart, right? She's like, you're going to be scissoring the fuck out of
But tribbing is right, too.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Let's list all the names for it.
Oh, I like this one. What great PG-13 movies would you want to see rated R just for that little extra level of intensity? For me, this person would say Jurassic Park, The Dark Knight, and Bourne Identity. Those are good picks.
I thought the last couple of Harry Potters could have been rated R, no problem.
Interesting.
I mean, the thing about Harry Potter was that everybody had, and I'm not talking about anything like ridiculous that would have made it just like a hard R or anything like that, but the whole thing about the Harry Potter series is that the people who were the fans of Harry Potter had grown up alongside the characters and everything. They were essentially adults by the time the movies got to the last couple or whatever. Obviously, there are a lot of new fans that keep coming in to Harry Potter who aren't that old, who may have been shut out of it and everything. But I mean, if you just made it rated R for a little bit of extra violence, and maybe a couple of swears here and there, I think parents would have been fine bringing their kids in to see it and everything. The thing about the Half-Blood Prince, the book, is that the spell that that Snape wrote in his old textbook that says for enemies, that Harry Potter eventually uses on Malfoy. The way it's described in the book is like there's just blood just spewing out of his face. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you're okay with your kids reading about that, then it shouldn't be a big deal showing it on screen either. I mean, I could be playing the advocate for spoiling the nation's children and the world's children here, but when you read something like that, those books progressively got darker and darker as they went along, as did the movies. I would have liked to have seen a rated R version of this where you're seeing spells and you see the actual consequences of those spells happening as they go along. These killing spells and these bleeding spells and all that should hurt, should have consequence. But it's PG-13, so everybody's like, just getting hit with spells and like, oh, something happened. I don't know. It stunned him or killed him. I don't know. But that would
be hilarious if Warner's signed off on that. Like, I know we'll probably take a bit of a hit at the box office, but let's go for this. We're all about artistic creativity.
Right.
I feel like more Nolan movies could benefit from being rated R. He was rated R in his first 3 films, up through Insomnia. And around that point, he was doing Batman Begins, I believe, after that. So the Batman trilogy was never going to be R-rated at that point. We may, at this point, see something like that in the future. Dark Knight was a good suggestion from the question asker. But Interstellar is one, and Inception is another that stick with me as movies that I think would have been just a skosh, just a little sharper edge. If, like Chris is saying, I don't need a hard R, like, Kill Bill style violence, but just give me a little more violence, a little swearing, maybe some nudity here or there. The stories, the stories he tells, the ideas are very adult and mature, and so I feel like an R rating would only help serve that a little better in some of these places. That was my answer. There you go.
What was first? Memento, what, and Insomnia?
The Following?
Following.
Oh, the Following was the first one, right?
Just Following. He dropped the.
He dropped the the.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That's what made Memento a little. Obviously, the conceit was fantastic, and the pulling it off was great. But yeah, having Joey Pants and Carrie Ann Moss and Guy Pearce being kind of profane made it a little bit more awesome.
I got to admit, I'm not seeing Interstellar being rated R. I could see maybe Inception being that.
Oh, yeah.
Interstellar, I think benefits by not being super crazy. But yeah, I could see Inception being R rated for sure.
What if instead of sad cry face, McConaughey was screaming "fuck" while he was walking?
Fuck!
It certainly was. That's
fuck you, time.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. Immediately, what I thought of was Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to suggest that an actor should do nudity if he or she is not comfortable with it. But the time where Tree walks out in the nude into the quad after she wakes up, I think would benefit from an actual nudity, right?
Yeah, it's not like it would be sexual nudity. It would just be like the shock of it. It would actually be kind of funny, even.
Yeah, of course.
I felt the same way. We've talked about this before with like Sin City too, even though Sin City is very R rated, but Jessica Alba, yes, if you don't want to do a nude scene, don't do a nude scene. Totally fine with that. But for you to be a stripper and for Bruce Willis to be all like, I need to save this girl from this horrible situation where she's fully clothed doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
And I think, amping up the violence a little bit. These are great movies that could benefit for it. I love Happy Death Day. I love Happy Death Day too. But if you amped up the violence, you amped up, a little nudity, and certainly the language. I mean, Jesus Christ, God damn it, swear type of thing.
And really, the first movie needs that nude, that nudity. What would you call it? A nudity power up.
Oh man,
absolutely. Now, if you do want a little more violence and heavier stuff in a Happy Death Day style movie, watch Freaky. Watch it. Mm-hmm. You will love Freaky if you love Happy Death Day. And the other one, I think, we've talked about this kind of before, but Live Free or Die Hard, every Die Hard movie should be rated fucking R. That's part of the reason that we love 1 through 3 is that, those movies were just, it's how New Yorkers would talk. It's the consequences of the violence. If you didn't have blood and gore in Die Hard, you wouldn't see his feet all cut up by the glass in the first movie, and you wouldn't feel his pain like you do when you watch it.
Talk about an existing fan base who's grown up by this point. You had to be an adult technically to watch the first 3 Die Hards, but think about if you watched them back in the day and then this came out 11, 12 years after the Die Hard with a Vengeance or whatever. Everybody's old as fuck watching these movies.
It's not like when you think about Die Hard, you think about the R rating. you don't think about like, oh man, they really do swear in that movie, except for Yippee-Ki-Yay, motherfucker.
Well, yeah.
But, like,
although I guess Die Hard with a Vengeance goes a little bit overboard with like, there's like, I mean, with Bruce Willis and Sam Jackson there, it's like it's a fuck parade, man. But like I'm so cynical about that Live Free or Die Hard being PG-13 that at first I was thinking, oh well, they just want to open it up for more people to watch. Actually, the first thing I was thinking was, why would you do this? R-rated movies did a lot of business. Why would you fuck with that? And I'm cynical enough to think, oh, some studio executive was like, oh, but we could make more business by making it PG-13. And
what 13-year-old is going to see Live Free or Die Hard? I mean, are they like, oh yeah, I love this brand?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. It's just, the whole reason why, yeah, exactly what you were saying. The whole reason why we like those other Die Hards is like anything can happen in those because it's got the R rating. It doesn't have to worry about pulling its punches when it's time for the Yippee-Ki-Yay motherfucker and everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And especially it makes it worse when you realize that Kevin Smith was called to rewrite his speech in his part. Like, just have him punch up the script overall, man. Because obviously he's got some great dialogue and he ain't scared with the thing. And also, I mean, amp up the violence a little bit and don't rely on CG so much. Make it Die Hard. I actually kind of like this movie, but that is one that suffers heavily from the PG-13 rating.
Sure does. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Keep going to Cinemasins presented by SinCast. So keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, Discord, and SoundCloud. If you want to get on Discord, go to Facebook and private message me, and I can give you a link there. But that's going to do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I thought that Jungle Cruise trailer today was balls terrible.
I haven't seen that trailer.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, everybody's online is like, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean meets The Mummy meets something else, and I'm like, that doesn't sound good to me.
Twitter also always does this,
and it doesn't look good. It looks like they're trying too hard to be those things. So
I remember when Kong Skull Island had its trailer after like San Diego Comic-Con or whatever the hell it was at the time, where they were coming out with a ton of new trailers for the new year. Not only that, but every movie that had trailers was like, oh my God, this looks like the best thing ever. I will be first in line to watch it.
Crazy at my house too. I got up, I had a meeting, I ate a beef stick. Now here I am.
Ate a beef stick.
Yep.
Who's the girl in Jungle Cruise?
Emily Blunt.
Oh, really? Well, she's having a big year. Or does Jungle Cruise come out this year?
Jungle Cruise is this year. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, thanks in a lot in some part to the fact that the movie that was supposed to come out last year didn't come out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so now I'm really seeing some true IMDb changes. I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. Although,
where do I go?
I went to Jungle Cruise, and oh my God, that movie's 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Jesus Christ!
Fucking kidding. You know what? I might be able to get used to this, but it's kind of fucking weird how they have 2 columns of actors now.
Mm-hmm.
What? I don't see it. I see 1 column.
Really?
Well, maybe you're not special.
I want to be special.
Change is hard.
It really is.
Changes. I couldn't believe when I found out that was a David Bowie song. There's a lot of David Bowie songs that don't sound like what you think, because his
You're
most
absolutely
famous
right.
songs are kind of like this experimental rock stuff, but he's got genre across the board. He does like that song. I was like, that's fucking David Bowie.
You know how that? What was the song that got me? Fame, because that doesn't sound like fame.
Yeah.
And then Young Americans, which he did with the Young American.
He's got a very wide array of styles. I might need to dive more into his discography and
I'm telling you, man, it's
explore.
good stuff. It's good stuff. When he was working with Trent Reznor, that was really good stuff. In what was that, 98, 97? That Earthling album. And then he had that compilation of Changes Bowie. That was awesome. That was like his greatest hits, basically. What was it? China Girl, I think, is another one that I didn't realize it was Bowie until a lot later on. You guys saw the Bowie episode of Flight of the Conchords, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. That's pretty freaky, Bowie.
Well, and then later on, Jermaine Clement did a Bowie-like song on Rick and Morty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
'cause he's
funny.
playing like this, I don't know, cloud of some sort. It's like a autonomous cloud or something like that. And he's like, and there's a point where they start tripping, and he starts singing like, because Jermaine Clement is pretty close to David Bowie.
Oh,
already.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's really funny.
Bowie's in space. What you doing out there, man? That's fascinating. I thought I had always heard, and I'm sure it's an urban legend, that Freddie Mercury and David Bowie didn't like each other, and that they recorded their parts in different studios.
I heard that too. Now that wasn't a part of that Professor of Rock thing, which made me wonder.
He would know, yeah.
Yeah, if that was a real thing or not. But I had heard that too, that they had sung their parts in different. I think they did definitely record those things independently, though. They didn't sing that at the same time.
Yeah, they were right.
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks and Elton John.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that Freddie Mercury is doing is sort of, just sort of a gibberish type of thing, and they kept it in.
That whole "bada beat up,
yeah,
bada beat up."
Yeah,
I love
that song.
Mm-hmm.
That may be my favorite Queen song. In fact, I think
it's
that is
up
my
there.
favorite Queen
Could
song.
be.
It's up
Could
there.
be.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Queen. I like their music, but like I've never gone out of my way to listen to them because they're so ubiquitous. I think
I've listened to a lot of Queen. I borrowed a friend's greatest hits at one point, and I've listened to a lot of their greatest hits. But there were some other songs out there that I didn't realize. There was one song he did a video for in the 80s that I'd never heard of before. But God, what was that? He was all dressed in drag and everything too in it.
I remember that video.
It was like he's cleaning the house or something. I don't remember what it was.
That was in the movie, wasn't it? That was in the movie. There was and I think it was one of those montages of the 80s where they all showed up. I think they were all in drag. And they show up and film that. There wasn't a whole lot of time spent on it. Of course, I've only seen that movie once because I hated it. You remember, what was it? Oh, it was the tribute to Freddie Mercury. When Axl Rose and Elton John did Bohemian Rhapsody, did the song. And it was funny because it was like Axl was at the piano and everything. He's like, "Mama, just killed a man."
Yeah, of course.
A little angry at the end there.
Yeah.
Don't call the prospective customers bitches.